Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
Now, here's your host, Ed Cohen.
This is Ed Cohen in Southern California, and today is, what day is today? Arlie, what day is today? It's the 21st, right?
Thursday, 21st, yes,
Yeah.
October.
So I was just saying that the world seems to be moving faster, the spinning faster, and so the time is moving faster. Is that impacting you out there? Let us know. So, okay, this is Ed, and you're on Global TV Talk Show. And with us is in Mexico City, Stephen Howard, author of 21 and a half books. And he's an excellent trainer of leaders. And George Monaghan is a business guy who's an expert in cultural aspects. And Ali Shami and I have known each other a long time through careers and places. And welcome again, guys. George, let me ask you if you could please just quickly do 30 seconds about yourself. Much better than I just did.
Certainly. Well, it's good joining you all again today. My background is a combination of diversity, equity, and inclusion work and cross-cultural work. So I started out working with the Peace Corps and doing Peace Corps training at all levels, from volunteers up to country directors, from 1980 to 1996. And then I worked at the Boeing Company for 7 years as a diversity programs manager. Subsequently went to work in the international health programs field for a few years. And now I'm working as a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant with a small consulting firm here in Seattle, working with local clients who want to develop strategic plans for their own organizations around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then also look at various training opportunities, and also on occasion working with firms on more of a cross-cultural or developing cultural competencies for their workforce, oftentimes in relation to their customers or to their client base.
Good, thank you. Now, it seems like because of your work in engineering, particularly with the Boeing Company, that you take an engineering approach to a soft topic. Is that correct?
I would say that my basic personality is to try to be as logical as possible and to try to break things down into their component parts and then build something and test it and evaluate and revise, retest, et cetera, et cetera. So, for example, I would say, over the course of about 10 years working on Peace Corps training for cross-cultural training, cross-cultural adaptation training for new Peace Corps volunteers, my approach evolved to one where I try to distill down to its most basic component parts and then pass on the construct as well as the content to the participants in the training so that they would understand not only what they needed to learn how to do, but why they needed to learn it in a certain sequence so that would help them become as successful as possible. And I would take the same approach with relocation training here in the United States, where I've worked with folks coming from, for example, India and France to work in the Seattle area and doing relocation training with them, which is basically a form of cross-cultural adaptation training, but taking the same approach of what's the construct, what's the model that will help you understand the process in your experience, and what's the content that you can learn in a particular sequence that will help you be successful as quickly as possible.
So the method. Okay, so Stephen Howard uses probably quite a similar engineering approach in helping people write books. Is that right, Stephen?
Exactly, in that you break it down. I have a kind of a methodology for helping people, particularly write nonfiction books, which is one of my businesses. In the last year and a half, I've helped 4 writers publish 6 books over the last 18 months or so. So yeah, but it is a very structured process of trying to get your thoughts into a formal, organized fashion, and then get your thoughts onto paper, and then let a good editor turn it into a book.
Interesting. Ali Shami, FTD. What does FTD mean?
It's definitely not flowers to deliver. I don't. Although every time I hear that, is this flower to deliver? I'm like, no, but it's starting to become like a great idea. Maybe when I deliver the service that I do, is I'll just include it also with roses and flowers of your choice. No, it's feel, think, do, and this is pretty much, I mean, from the day we wake up until we go to sleep, from the time when we're born until we die, we go through these three processes. We feel, we think, not necessarily in that order, but it's more so, as you could tell, this has a lot to do with the non-technical, with the soft skills. So my company, FTD Global, is a global leadership consulting, but works on not on the technical, although we use scientific method as George and Stephen mentioned. So it's that there's science in it, but it's mostly for working with people. So a little bit about myself. My strength is in global leadership, doing business across cultures, communicating across cultures, customer service excellence, and setting and achieving goals while keeping a work-life balance. I have 3 decades of working with Boeing also, and I had the pleasure of working together with George early on in that phase when we were introducing diversity and inclusion into the company. It was a pleasure, and it was a big loss when George decides to take a great opportunity outside the company a while back. So it's glad to be here.
Yeah. So Ali, as we wait for Marcolo to join us, let's continue on. I wanted to ask you about remote working, and everybody seems, a lot of people, particularly women, seem to be quitting the corporate job. And, what do you think about that, number one, and what's behind it, number two? And they're not leaving the company so much, they're leaving a toxic manager, perhaps.
That's great. That's exactly right. People don't leave jobs, they leave toxic leaders and toxic environment. And you can't really, sometimes, you can't win against a culture when you're the only one who's trying to make the change. Of course, some succeed, but culture is so strong. So right now, as we're, I would say people are working towards, finally they say, you know what, there's something that I can do. This is something that I can go on my own and be an entrepreneurship. So I've done enough of entrepreneurship work. And this is one of the advice a lot of my people that I work with, they say, I'm ready. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to work. It's like, okay, great. But okay, you got to think about other things. How about, do you know what you're going to be when you start this company? You know exactly what, you have the experience, you have the expertise, you have what it takes. No, but I think I can learn it on the way. And my advice is, yeah, not everybody can succeed that way. What I suggest is you go work for a company, do an entrepreneurship, make a difference for the company, make mistakes where you don't pay it, your children don't pay for those mistakes, gain that experience, and when the time is right, fly and go on your own. So you asked about, just with the pandemic of how things are changing. For a lot of people, including myself, pandemic was not, as far as professionally, it wasn't a big impact. And the reason for that is I've always worked in international business, we worked with virtual teams, Zoom, WebEx, all of that is just something normal that we've used. It's like all what it is now is like everybody else is doing the way we're doing it. So it's not something that is new. Definitely there were some additional challenges, but in general, it's a normal thing for us. That's why a lot of companies, a lot of leaders, they look for their organizations that work with the global teams and said, hey, you've been doing it for the last 30, 40 decades. Could you help the rest of the company do exactly what you're doing?
Okay, hello, Mark. Welcome.
Hello, Ed.
Welcome again, and we're going to get to intros in just a second.
Okay.
So, George, the role of the manager. Is there a secret sauce to managerial expertise in dealing with remote workers?
Well, I'd say there's two realities that we're dealing with right now. You have before the pandemic era, everyone had a significant amount of experience working in an office being managed directly by someone else who was X number of feet down the hall, perhaps. And you had, that manager had a level of skill that was partly based on their innate abilities and then partly based on the input they may have gotten from their own organizations as far as building their management skills out. And that's a pretty wide spectrum, I would say, in most people's experience. What we have is people who are being hired into a remote working environment who do not have any experience working directly with other people in a space, in an office space, where someone would come and look at them, or they would go and look and talk with someone else. Now they're working entirely on their own. So the skills, the management skills are going to be evolving in a totally different direction. And the question would be for any large organization that will continue to have, a significant percentage of their employees spending a significant percentage of their time working remotely, is what are the remote management skills that our managers now need? And can they create a package of training that will help them become good or be good managers managing remotely? And what is that basket of skills that they're going to need? The other parallel track to that is going to be for people who are going to start becoming managers, who have not been managers. Now in the future, are their organizations going to be ready to, again, train them to be effective as remote managers or partially remote managers? And how much of that knowledge is already contained inside of a company or an organization? And how much of it are they going to have to go out and look for and bring in someone from the outside to help them do that? When I was working at Boeing, we did a first level new manager training, and they would get 40 hours of training at a residential location, and kind of get that bringing into the company and getting a set of skills, and then going back out to their workplaces and work with people directly. Well, now if you're not going to be working with people directly, nor are you going to get some kind of group residential training that's in a concentrated fashion, what's the new paradigm going to be? And how much of a external input does the organization need to make that jump to that new reality? Because we're never going back to the old reality. It's never going to be 100% in the office.
Thank you, George. I want to go to Steve in just a second. Mark, welcome. What do you think of all this remote working? It's nothing new to you and me, but what do you think of that?
I think it's got advantages and some disadvantages. Some people like to have a focused target when they're working and have no distractions. I always just think most accountants, you throw them in a room, give them a bone to chew on, and shut the door, and they're happy. It's just that's kind of generalizing and stereotyping, but I love remote working. I've done it for the last probably 10 years of my career, and I really enjoyed it because I got to be with my family during the day at different times. I had some freedom. I felt I had more freedom. I wasn't being watched over or micromanaged. It was just liberating to me. So I was very pleased with working at home, working remotely. And with technology today, you can just use the metrics through technology as to whether or not the person's putting the time in or not. You can measure all that. You have other safe checks as well with that. So I'm a big advocate for that.
Right, thank you. So Stephen, how are companies, or how should the C-suite, or how is the C-suite finding new people to become leaders of this new paradigm?
I think they're finding it very difficult right now. In August, we had 4.3 million people resign in the workforce in the United States. And they're just not, these weren't just busboys and waiters and waitresses and delivery people. There are people in IT and financial services and what have you. And I think part of the change will be that George was alluding to is that it's hard to learn when you have such huge turnover. You start bringing new people in, it's going to be very hard to learn from others. And the third thing, hopefully I'm sharing my screen here. I want to share my favorite philosopher, philosopher here, Yoda. And my main message today as somebody who consults and mentors leaders is you're going to have to unlearn what you've learned in many ways. I mean, the way you gave directions, because I also, one thing I would say, Ed, well, you're correct in that people leave people leave bosses, toxic bosses, as Ollie called them, not companies. I would also argue that right now, right now, people are also leaving companies. They're leaving companies because their policies, their inflexibility on working from home, the inflexibility on policies about that. Also, people are scared if they're being forced to come back into the workplace. They don't know whether they can trust their colleagues. You say you've been vaccinated. Do I trust you? Do I not trust you? Have you gotten an exemption of somehow that HR knows about, I don't know about? I mean, there's a lot of issues happening in the workplace right now. So I just say, here's my friend Yoda. Everyone's going to have to unlearn what you've learned. So toss it back to you.
Yeah. Ali, what do you think?
Oh, I love it. I mean, it's so just to be open for everything and attached to nothing. It is you started the discussion with everything is moving fast. And so absolutely, it's just being that flexibility and being to learn and just face new challenges. And in a way, I think the pandemic, honestly, it probably happened at the best time for humanity. Just with the rise of the technology, had we not had internet, all that communication, people, Facebook, Zoom, it just made it a whole lot easier. It's much easier to, imagine just you'll have to go and still probably use the phone to order food for it to deliver at your doorstep. But right now you just do all of it online. Now, the key is this: we're not on the same boat. And that's something that the leader of a group leading a team should always think, that we're not all on the same boat. We are in the same storm. Some of us are in a yacht, others are swimming, others are drowning. So it's really important to have that situational leadership and being specific for every person. So as George mentioned, I mean, this is where the attention, that soft skill is so important for the new employee and new managers that are coming to the workplace, for them to say soft skills have always been important and it's the hardest to learn, but it's now more important because you have, as Mark mentioned, and just being to a lot of people, what's going on right now is heaven. I'm an introvert. I love it. I don't want to, I don't want to be I can focus on my work. I don't distracted. I don't run into people on the hallway talking, but I can focus and get the work done. And when I'm ready, I can do that. Extroverts, they feel like, you know what, I can still get some work done, but trust me, extroverts, they'll find a way to communicate with people and just get that social aspect with it, thanks to technology. For me, I'm in the middle. What do you call it? The ambivert, where I really need the time. I'm more extrovert, but I need the time where, like, okay, enough, I'm shutting down. All my personality is changing. I need some time. So in a nutshell, all these leadership skills that have always been important, now it's more critical to be good at it, to connect with people who've you don't see, as as Stephen mentioned. It's a new set of skills, and for a lot of and you have to have that environment that is conducive to openness, to being creative. And so for that reason, a lot of people are leaving companies now because of the policies, and they're not feeling like, you know what, I'm better off working from home. So absolutely.
Yeah, Stephen.
Yeah, just to give some tangibility to this discussion, one of the skills I would suggest that leaders can have to learn is identifying, first of all, understanding, knowing, and then identifying the signs of burnout. I mean, burnout is becoming epidemic in the workplace. Interesting research from Gallup earlier this year showed that whereas men, only about 30% of men are reluctant to discuss burnout with their immediate supervisor, 42% of women are reluctant to do so. So, again, particular male boss with females reporting to him is going to have to understand and be more transparent, be more receptive, and build more trust, so that his female colleagues will raise their hand and say, you know what, I need a mental rest day, or I need a couple hours. My brain is fried. So that's the kind of skill, I think, Ali was talking about soft skills. To me, I call them essential skills, but that's the kind of thing that's going to be different. No one ever had to worry about that 5-10 years ago. Just if you burn out, pull up your socks and work harder, the boss would say. That doesn't work anymore.
Okay, Mark has personal experience, I think we all know that by now, of dealing with the unexpected, but it becomes a personal culture, doesn't it? Mark, and then that has to mesh somehow with the boss's culture, right, Mark?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, Ed. I got most of that.
Okay, it's about culture, personal culture. Like Ali has his own ways of doing things, and
Yeah,
the people at at the manager level, the boss level, have their own ways of doing things.
yeah. I think not. I don't want to disagree with my earlier comment because I really think that some employees work much better independently because if that's how their personality is. But usually the best product you get from a group of employees is if they pull together as a team and they work together as a team. And that's hard to achieve when you have such diverse personalities and different traits and qualities and different generations. There's a great book called When Generations Collide. It's an older book, but it's a great book because it talks about the different generations and how they perceive the world, what impacted them, what caused them to think the way they think, and it's really fascinating when you get into that. But I've done the gamut in my industry and the van line industry. I've worked with good agents and I've worked with very bad agents, and you can tell the difference between the two is the knowledge of the leadership, and you can never have enough knowledge. So I'm a big advocate of reading as many books as you can as often as you could. I haven't read all yours yet. Steve, but I plan on reading a couple of those anyways. But I just think the more you can learn, the higher your IQ is, and the higher elevation you can reach to look down and see the terrain a little bit clearer, so a little bit sharper. So,
George, a lot of the managers, not the C-suite, but the manager level, they're dictators, right? Not influencers. But they may think they're influencing.
Well, I think by and large, and I would say from my personal experience working inside of large organizations, I've had exposure to a lot of managers at all levels of organizations. On my conclusion is that most managers manage as a function of their personality, that they manifest their management skills are a manifestation of their personality, and for the most part they are unconsciously behaving in a way that they think they're a manager, therefore I do it this way, but really they're doing it that way because that's their personality. You have to, in order to change that, either as an individual or if an organization wants to have an impact on their managers, first they have to know who they are. They have to look at how that natural person manifests as a manager, and then they have to have some other comparison of what would I like to be different or have more skills or something in another area, and then they have to get training and be, honest and motivated to make an adjustment in a excuse my phone here, in a conscious fashion. Most management behavior is unconscious. And that's where the problems come in. And that's why, when people get into trouble as managers from their behavior, they're oftentimes surprised about a negative response that they get because they think whatever I do is good because that's who I am.
So looking at Mark's picture there, it looks like we're in Amen Corner in Augusta.
yes, we are.
And so are the managers in Amen Corner.
Probably a lot of them are there, probably having to go there on a frequent basis.
Stephen.
Yeah, I don't think they're in Amen Corner too often these days in the fact that they amen and hallelujah. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I think they need to go to prayer corner right now.
That's funny.
But I love what George says because it is unconscious. I mean, the research I did for one of my books showed that so often, this is all of us, not just managers, but human beings, we run on autopilot. And, and because we made a decision a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago, a couple of years ago, and it seemed to go right, and then something hits us and we don't have time to pause and reflect. We're running 24/7. We're constantly being asked to make decisions as managers. And so our brain just reflectively automatically goes to and says, you know what, couple months ago, this was a similar situation. And this is what you did. It worked out. And so you immediately react and say, okay, let's just do it this way. Well, things have changed in a couple months. Or certainly things have changed in a couple of years. And our managers need to get off autopilot, or what George calls unconscious behavior, and be more conscious, more purposeful about how they're leading their people.
Ollie?
Yeah, I think with pandemic, it really, the leadership or the skills, the behavior of a leader will have to reflect what the team is going through. So right now, the pandemic, it created a challenge for companies in two arenas. First one is in the business, in the stay alive, make money. And the other one is the working with keeping the team together, working together, taking care of each other. And so for that reason, the first thing that comes to mind is leadership and management. A lot of times for the last 20 years, there's been a discussion about leadership is better than management. Management is bad. Management is bad. But deep inside, we know it's you'll have to manage. You can have a company that you're leading in the sense of taking care of everybody's happy. They can be happy for 1 year, and later on customers won't come and there's no business. Everybody goes home happy for a short period of time, because then it's gonna hit, well, I was happy at my work, but I didn't make enough money, so now I don't have a job. So deep inside, it's keeping that two balance in. So it requires the skills of running the business, the strategic, the tactic, the doing the actual business, where you can keep the company successful. Everybody can be everybody can be loved by their team for a year, but then will they stay in business? So it's really important for the executive level. To them, it's like, great, I am a human being. I want to take care of my team, but sometimes I want to be tough on everybody, because that's the only way for me to survive this storm. So the other aspect of it, because the team is now going through so much, there has to be really important the focus on leadership and taking care of the team. Like John C. Maxwell said, you can love your team without your people, without loving them. You know, you can love your team without leading them, but you can't lead them without loving them. The only thing I would like to add right now, this was said like a decade ago, but right now in terms of pandemic, you can love your team without leading them. But love your team, but not too much to a point that does not get them to be their best and deal with and help you move that rock. If you just say you're great, you can sit down, I can do it by myself. No, as Mark mentioned, it is that teamwork that really need to make that move. And then in the end, so there's that business aspect that leaders and executives, they have to keep an eye on, right? But at the same time, there's the other one that's right now, because of the emotional turmoil, everybody's going through so much. It's so important to stay connected and see how the team is feeling and showing that you care. It's not just the knowledge. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. So having those two skills, the leadership and the management, is so important. You can't just base on one and forget the other, especially right now that we're going through.
Stephen?
No, Ali's always correct. I can always add on to what Ali's saying, but no, he and I, we come from the same leadership philosophy, I think. And and as much as I promote human leadership, whatever you want to call it, some people call it heart forward leadership. There's all kinds of, the fact is that we have to now as leaders focus on the results and on our people. And I wrote this 5 years ago. I said the difference between a good leader and a great leader is that a good leader is either good at leading for results or good at leading their people. As Ali said, you can do that for a year or two, but you may go bankrupt. A great leader is good at both leading for results and leading people. And we need great leaders in organizations today. Organizations are not going to survive with just good managers and good leaders coming out of the pandemic.
George?
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%, especially in the current situation. The level of sophistication that's necessary on the part of leaders and managers is just being increased. And it's being increased, by external forces. It's not that people are bringing it into the organizations and saying we need to be more sophisticated. It's the environment that's forcing it on you. So the question is, can you recognize what's coming at you, what the dynamics are, what are the implications, and then as a group leaders and managers internalize the what do we need to unlearn statement or question. It's like, therefore, what do we need to unlearn and what do we need to learn? Can we quantify those two things? Can we agree on that? Can we then create a process where we move forward in to unlearn and to learn in a way that's efficient and effective? And to what degree do we need to communicate this reality to the whole organization or to the whole company? Are we going to say, we're living in a new environment, therefore some things that we said we valued and we did in the past, we're not going to do those anymore because they don't work, they don't fit in this environment. We're going to add some new things that we think fit and will help us become more effective in this new environment. And then explain that to everyone. People love to have things explained to them. They love to feel included in the process. I can tell you, I was in a meeting, training session this morning, and some people didn't feel that they had been included in a process, and that brought the whole training session to a screeching halt. So that kind of, being inclusive, explaining things clearly and logically, and challenging people. People love to be challenged. They want to say, let's work together in a new way to be successful. We haven't had this common experience of the pandemic and working remotely and being restricted in various ways. Well, let's create a new model and let's work together to move forward in a new direction that we think will lead us to success. In my experience working with Peace Corps volunteers want to be challenged, and they know that what they have to do is hard and complicated, and they know that they don't know how they're going to do it. And so when you work with people and you say, this is how we think you can do it, this is how we think we can move forward towards our goals, and you challenge people and include them in the process, it's really an opportunity. And maybe those are the leaders that are going to be the most successful, are the ones that say, hey, we've got an opportunity right now to be the ones who figure it out and move forward and to be successful.
Hi, this is Ed, and I thank you for tuning in to Global TV Talk Show, a unit on globalbusinessnews.net. We broadcast to the world, as you know by now. So I wanted to make sure that you understand that our programs are advertising supported. We're grateful for co-sponsors, advertisers. They have a marketing budget coupled with a strong desire to be associated with our top quality program. And of course, I'm grateful. Thank you. So for the next few minutes, you're going to see some commercials. It's mostly very low key, and our prices are very, very reasonable. Our exposure for the advertisers go 12 months and beyond. Some of our advertisers have been with us since March, April of 2020. And Google Analytics has tracked over 125,000 what they call audience page views, which means you looking at this page, that's a page view. Now, if you happen to go to one of our other shows or to our radio broadcasts or to our newspaper or magazine, those become additional page views as measured by Google Analytics. And so when they say 125,000 since spring of 2020 up through Labor Day, a month ago, that's pretty good numbers. And the past 30 days, Google Analytics has measured just under 6,000 audience page views. And that, according to them, is a 42% increase in audience participation over the month of August. So thank you very much. Well, here's our advertisers, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes or so, and we'll proceed with this interesting conversation. Thank you.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
And by heirs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at heirs.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
Hi, I'm Sergey Gorbatov.
I'm Angela Lane.
Together we're researchers, writers and practitioners in the field of human resources.
And we've also been multi-country, multi-assignment career expats.
We owe our professional development and growth to a very large extent to the international assignment opportunities that we have had.
But in a world where distributed work may become the norm, we also want to understand what will happen to the nature, duration, and purpose of international assignments.
Together with our colleague, Julian Dalzell from the University of South Carolina, we're undertaking a study on the future of expatriation.
And we'd value your contribution. You can participate in this important study by completing a simple 10-minute questionnaire.
Access the questionnaire by typing in your browser tinyurl.com/expert study. That's tinyurl.com/expert study. You can also find the link here on Ed's website next to this video.
Thank you for joining us in this study. In return for your contribution, we'll provide you with a copy of our research.
And of course, you'll be invited to an exclusive webinar hosted by Ed, where we will share our findings right here on Global Business News.
And so please go to tinyurl.com/expat study. Take the survey so that we can better understand the future of expatriation.
We have 9.5 minutes remaining here. So let's have some more spontaneous stuff going on here. So you see this picture behind me? Okay, so if you look at it closely, it looks like, is it diversity and inclusion? Or is it like balloons? Or it's just some artist that was doing dabs of different colors? Stephen, what do you see in that picture?
I could go down the diversity and inclusion route, but I could also go down the pandemic chaos route. all this stuff is moving, and there's
viruses.
There's no structure to it.
and there's no strings to pull in the balloons, right?
Yeah, I want the coffee you're drinking if you see balloons in there.
Ed must be drinking the same thing I'm drinking, because that's the first thing came to my mind. It's like party, it's happy birthday. Somebody's having a birthday party and all these balloons are running all over the place.
You know, haven't been here for a few months. I think it was June since last time I sat in this room. But it never occurred to me that that's what I'm looking at here, is that it's a portrayal of chaos, but in a semi-organized way. Mark, what do you think? Do you think I'm crazy?
Yeah, I think you're crazy, Ed. Yeah. It's obvious. It looks like something from COVID. I don't know if something COVID related, but it looks naturally that way. Could be a community of individuals and different personalities. You could probably slant it toward DISC personality profiling.
There you go.
So you got the reds, you got the yellows, you got the green, you got the different colors, right? So it could be something like having a meeting, maybe in the conference room, but you really can't tell by the outline of the photo, so, or the painting. So I don't know. That's my stamp.
So Mark produced a golf tournament to benefit the charity findneurohelp.org, and that went well, didn't it?
It went very well, considering the height of worries and fears about COVID, and the variant as well. It went extremely well. We had a lower attendance than we're used to. The most we've had for our tournaments, we've had 4 of them. The most we've had is about 85 players. So we haven't broken that 100 players threshold yet, but we'll get there. But we had good success. We raised more than we did on the previous golf tournament, but we had some bigger sponsors this year. So we're very pleased, all things considered.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah. Yes,
Sorry,
Ali, please.
No, I was just going to mention, just with the social activities and the golf, all the social connecting with people, and that's with COVID, that it's not, that was almost removed for months, and now we're starting to go back. It really reminded me, what I just heard was, it reminded me there's additional skill that leaders have to have, is if the leader goes, the whole world is shutting down, oh my goodness, this is horrible, everybody's they're gonna mirror that feeling, right? And they're gonna panic also. And at the same time, if you just go, you know what, everything is fine, life is good, blah blah, also they're gonna lose another 50% of the team by saying, look, didn't you watch the news? Don't you see that, when neighbors are dying and what's going on? So it's really important, I think, for executives, for leaders, if they don't have that skill, they need to hire someone who is very good at taking something challenging and turn it into something positive. In other words, you want to let the team know, like, I understand, I feel what's going on, I'm going through it, have that empathy. And it's so important to not just come across as, oh, everything is fine, everything is dandy. That's not the case. But at the same time, twist it into something fun. For example, one of the innovative things that leaders can do right now, if I have a team scattered around the world, or even in the same city, but they're not working together, when I have a staff meeting with them, how wonderful it would be to go ahead and if a staff meeting like today, Thursday, I will send on Monday, I will send a gift in the mail. I get everybody's mail. And right now, it's not, you can have that. It used to be very difficult to find people's address, but now it's common that that's the only way you could send stuff to them, right? Imagine on a Monday, you send gifts to everybody based on what you know what they like. Whoever likes philosophy, you send them a book on philosophy. Whoever wants, whatever, just have that gift present that it's not that for them, dedicated for them on a Monday, and you put on it. Please do not open it until Thursday staff meeting at 10, and then have that team, and you have that 20 people. And then you'll say, okay, you got everybody showing it, like this is what I haven't opened it, and everybody opens it and say, what do you think? Just so that creativity, then innovation, that positivity, and then what? It is a storm, but all what we can do is carry the umbrella, hang on to it, but at the same time, if we can sing like the folks on the Titanic that they danced, the folks of Lebanese immigrants that they were there. If you watch the movie, you will see at one point they're speaking in Lebanese, and they start doing the traditional dance and singing. They got to a point, we're just going to take a couple of shots. We're going to have fun. This is the last time for us. We may be saved, so let's just have fun at it. So that back to it is that skill that you have to be empathetic, but at the same, a dealer of hope, to be able to bring that team and say, let's just have fun. Might as well just go ahead as much as we can. So this is one of the things that managers could do by sending those gifts, presents, before an all team meeting or before a staff meeting. So that creativity and innovation, it's so critical right now in the time that we're in, because that shows people that I care.
So before we end this thing, everyone will have a chance to talk more, but I want to bring to the attention of all of us and all of you out there in the world that Mark Colo has come up with a great idea, and he got me involved, and together we're producing a series of what I'm calling medical TV talk shows. And we've done 3 or 4 already. And we have one coming up next week with Dr. Barbara Geiser, who's an expert, a renowned research scientist in LA on multiple sclerosis. In other words, neuro things that go haywire. And I was reading up on this the other day, Mark. It said that multiple sclerosis is when the immune system begins attacking the brain or something. What is this, like Pac-Man or something?
Exactly right. It attacks the functions of the body that should be working a certain way. It sees it as a foreign object, and they start attacking the cells. Just start attacking.
So there's like some kind of a breakdown or something.
Yeah. Barbara's just a brilliant person. I mean, I met her about 3 years ago when I was on UCLA campus, and she was kind enough to meet with me in the cafeteria, and we had a nice little visit. She said, "Mark, I'm so thankful for what you guys are doing." And I said, "Oh, okay, thank you so much." And she said, "You guys are doing things that we as doctors wish that we could do, and that is to have time to connect with the patient in a meaningful way, in a helpful way, and not in a rushed way, like some of these doctors say, well, Ed, you've got cancer. Good luck. Take these pills and go do these tests, and we'll see you in a month." Not very personal, not very connective, and they wish they could do that. So that's something we try and do with our foundation, is try and get real personal with the individuals that we help, that we work with. And most of our services are non-medical services, but they're just as important as the medical services are in the long run. So
once again, it's findneurohelp.org. So the last show we did was with an immunologist at UCI, University of California in Irvine, and that doctor has been awarded this huge boost. She's taking over the whole campus at University of Kentucky?
Yeah, back east.
Yeah, and so she's an immunologist, and so the talk show we did, which is currently available on our medical TV series, it was about, and it was in plain English, it wasn't in doctor talk, about how the vaccines are supposed to work and how they usually work, and it's like an engineered molecule that is inserted into the system. That was the boost, the shot, and then it changes over time. It changes how the cells or other molecules react when they are attacked. And I'm oversimplifying it, right, Mark?
No, that's pretty good explanation from layman terms. I think that's about what it is. When you think about it, there's 5,000 neurological diseases at least that are out there. And the ones that we only hear are the mainstream ones. Parkinson's is probably one of the least known ones because there aren't that many people with Parkinson's. But people with cancer, with diabetes, with some of these other horrible things, they have a hard time as well, but they're a little bit more mainstream, a little bit more support, a little bit more effort put into that. So, and then you got some really obscure ones. ALS is not, real popular.
That's the Lou Gehrig
Lou Gehrig disease. That's
thing,
one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wish that on anyone, not even my worst enemy. I mean, that's just a nasty disease that keeps taking a toll, and it takes in a very short amount of time. Your lifespan is very short with ALS. But you look at someone like Stephen Hawking, and he broke the curve. I mean, he lasted 30 years when he should have been dead like 25 years prior. So there's some really heroes of mine out there, Michael J. Fox included, that I think are just champions of what they do.
Okay, looking. I'll send this out. I'll send the link out so everybody can get it. George, if we could get a quick summary about what you're working on coming up next week and the week after.
Yeah, I have a new project with a local nonprofit that manages community healthcare centers, and they've asked us to work on a training series that relates to or covers cultural competence, because their client base comes from many different cultural backgrounds. Here in the southern King County is one of the most diverse populations in the United States. There's actually a town in southern part of King County where there are more different languages spoken than any other town in the United States. So this organization is looking for what is cultural competence or cross-cultural competence, and how can we train our staff to best provide services to a client population that is by definition culturally diverse by country, culture, ethnicity, language, you name it. So we're in the process right now of developing that training program, and it's very interesting to gather information about their organization and their client population, and then also to look at what can I bring from my background and my training expertise and my knowledge of the models and the constructs and the content, and bring that together in a directed training session that could be have a positive impact for the organization. So
look forward to hearing about that, and I'd like you to come back on our talk show and give us a story on that.
Be happy to.
So Stephen, do you want to talk about your new book?
The new book is in progress. I guess the good news is I picked up a new client, a major retail organization in the United States. So I've got a series of virtual webinars being designed, customized for them, for their IT department. They have over 330 people just in their IT department across the country. So, but the new book is coming along, and hope to have it out probably around February, March next year. And it'll be on leadership, of course.
So leadership, female, male?
No, it's going to be more on what many things we've been talking about here, about how the human leadership, the new skills, the essential skills that people need, the mindset change that leaders need to have coming out of the pandemic to become the successful leaders of the future. And then those who don't want to change, don't want to follow Yoda's advice are going to be dinosaurs quicker than they know. Then if their companies could be dinosaurs as well. So this is going to be a book that really outlines what a lot of these conversations that we're having right now about, and what leaders need to do in terms of building that skill set. George put it right. What is it we need to learn? What do we need to unlearn? And it's not so much unlearning it, but it's maybe deprioritizing some of the behaviors we have, because in some cases they'll still be appropriate. But what do we need to learn? How do we prioritize that? And how do we inculcate it into behavior change? And that's going to be the key.
Right.
Ali, your son
Yes.
is a star. I've met him, and he shot video on one of our Seattle meetings. and excellent. So he's Gen Z, right? And so give us your insight in Gen Z from that lens.
Oh, goodness.
And this is
You know,
obviously unrehearsed.
he till now he talks every now and then. He's like, I tell him, I'm in a meeting. He's like, is it with Ed? Just he speaks highly of the appreciate the opportunity that he was given. And so for Anthony and especially this is for all Gen Z millennials, they with the technology is just helping them. It's just like communicating, even if they're sitting right next to each other, they'll be texting each other. So so I think they're handling the situations more than what we're doing now. The thing that I was talking with him a couple of days ago was about achieving his goals. He's very energetic. He wants to achieve, and it was a perfect discussion, because that's one of the courses that I'm working on. In addition to my research on project management across cultures, that's part of my dissertation. I'm putting a class together for 2022 for Boeing, was the achieving career goals while leading a balanced life. And it was great that I was talking with him. It really brought in a really different aspect. We're like, wait a minute, I am so glad I'm talking with you. In my mind, I'm thinking it's somebody who's 30 years old maybe, but just a kid who's in college and about to graduate, that really put a twist to it. The common thing that did not change was the concept. You remember when was that? I don't know how many years ago, when did a presentation in San Francisco for you, and talked about the fist, the concept of the fist, and leading a balanced life with having 5 elements in your life that you want to feel balanced, and which is health, work, family and friends, financial health, and spirituality. Whatever that I say spirituality, it's that power, whatever, somebody who's much stronger than you are. So when you're in trouble, you reach out to. So having those 5, I call it the fist, because to me is keeping that balance between all of those 5 things are so important. So I'm working on it, putting it together. And Anthony had a lot of input, like when asked the questions that I wasn't even thinking about. I'm like, diversity, inclusion. It's so important.
So that meeting in San Francisco was at the Wells Fargo executive suite. And that was about 4 or 5 years ago, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Our friends at Wells Fargo hosted several of our events there. So anyway, guys, thanks very much for being on Global TV. We'll call this one Executive Thinking. And as you could see, not all of it is clear, but it goes deep.
I just have to show Ali the room I'm in, because he's got a plane on his desk. This room has all kinds of
more planes. All right, the next time I'm gonna be ready, Stephen, and I bring all my airplanes.
Okay, plane envy going on here. So
this is cool. This is very good. Okay, Mark, we'll see you on medical TV. And so, Stephen, we have a lot of things going on. I don't know how you could fit me into your busy schedule. So thank you.
Because I enjoy these conversations. They're so rich and so diverse, and I really really enjoy them, and I learn from them. That's why I keep coming back.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, George. We'll see you again soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, Ed.
Okay, Mark, let's talk soon.
Thank you.
We will. Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. And thank you.
See you all.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.